This is the government's week in review for the week ending Friday, December 8th, 2023. I am Chrisanne Mitchell. In the headlines, ex gratia payment to be made to all government employees later this month. Details to this and more after the break.
At the NIS, our team proudly works to support the evolving needs of Grenadians. We have made some changes to our operations and want to keep you informed. Firstly, we are happy to introduce the new unemployment benefit. This benefit will provide an insured person with 50% of his or her former income in the case of sudden unemployment. To support this benefit and other benefits we offer, it was necessary to increase the contribution rate. The contribution rate will increase gradually each year until it reaches 16% in 2031. As always, the contribution will be split between you and your employer. The pensionable age will also increase from 60 to 65 years. This increase will also be gradually reaching age 65 in 2029. Pensioners will continue to be eligible for a pension from age 60 but will receive a reduced payment. The NIS recognizes that the prices of basic customer goods are increasing globally. Therefore, we are happy to also increase the weekly minimum pension payment by 25%. Finally, we have adjusted our survivor's benefit payment to a percentage of the age pension minimum. Widows, widowers, and dependent parents will receive 100% or $58 weekly, while children will receive 50% or $29 weekly of the deceased's pension. We are here to make the transition to these new changes as clear and simple as possible. If you have any questions on how these changes impact you and your family, please contact our new informational hotline at 440-6647 or visit www.nisgrenada.org. Thank you for allowing us to be your social security provider.
Welcome back. Government employees will be paid 25% of their basic salary for December. That announcement by Minister for Finance, Honorable Dennis Cornwall, during a press conference earlier this week. The ex gratia payment, which totals just over $6 million, has been approved by Cabinet and will be paid during the second tranche of the bi-monthly payment cycle for the month of December.
Let me say that decision was one that had to be unanimously approved by our cabinet, and we only got that done at our cabinet meeting yesterday. I would have liked to announce that situation earlier on, but without cabinet blessing, I could not have done it. I would also want to say that that benefit would be taxed. In other words, it is income tax applicable. In other words, nobody is going to expect to get 25% without having to pay tax on it. And that is throughout. The persons who will benefit from that payment would include all public servants, whether you're permanent, unestablished, imanis, contract workers, contract services. In other words, the only persons who would not benefit from this payment are retirees or pensioners, and government ministers would not benefit from that payment.
Minister Cornwall says it is important to inform government employees that this will not be an automatic payment in the future, but will be based on the following factors.
It would be based on, one, performance, yes, but also we'd have to look at the government's ability to pay. In other words, if the government does not have the same level of revenue going forward, there is no way we can pay you ex gratia payment at the end of the year. I also want to reiterate that we are concerned that the level of productivity in the public service and throughout Grenada needs to be improved. We want to see people coming to work on a timely basis and be able to perform their duties at a higher level. Sometimes we have too many complaints about people's attitude, people's way of conducting business. It doesn't reflect well sometimes on the government and to the people that we serve here in Grenada.
The finance minister also pointed to the importance of increased productivity and appealed for all to be on board.
A smile when your customers come to you goes a long way. Talking to them nicely goes a long way. When you come to work and you bring your problems from home to the workplace, it doesn't help that situation. So we are therefore asking people to up the game and be more productive.
A new minimum wage order will take effect in Grenada from January 1st, 2024, the first in 12 years. It will mean an increase in minimum wage across all sectors that are currently in the legislation, along with the inclusion of other sectors that were not treated under the minimum wages order. Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General and Minister for Labor and Consumer Affairs, says the Minimum Wages Committee, led by Mr. Curlin Gilchrist, held a number of consultations where the data received were carefully analyzed, resulting in the final document that will be in the Government Gazette in the coming weeks.
In some instances, we have 100% increase. Some instances, it's less. And in other instances, we have increases that reflect really what the market conditions are now, bearing in mind that these wages were adjusted 12 years ago. So some sectors have moved on and have left the minimum wages order behind. So for example, the going rate, the minimum at which a bus conductor, you would find a bus conductor working now, is around $60, $60 to $65. That's the market. That's what the market is demanding now. But in the current legislation, it's still at 35.
In keeping with the rate of inflation and what the market is demanding in some instances, Senator Joseph says the minimum wages were adjusted in line with what the market is currently saying.
We have industrial workers. All of them will have the minimum wages included, and these industrial workers include machine operators, cutters, and mechanics and cleaners. So we have $100 a day for mechanics, $85 a day for cutters, machine operators $70 a day, and cleaners $60 a day. Clerical workers, so these are store assistants, administrative clerks, cashiers, receptionists, and so minimum wage $1,200 a month. You will see some rates are quoted by the day, some by the month, and some by the hour. And that reflects how the industry operates and how the industry compensates its workers, how the particular sector traditionally compensate its workers.
There has also been an increase in the daily hourly rate for security guards and domestic workers.
Security guards, currently it's $8 per hour. It's going to be up to $9.25. Domestic workers, currently it's $35 a day. It's going to go up to $60 a day. Caregivers, people who take care of the elderly, including the elderly who live in homes for the aged, this will see a 100% increase from $700 to $1,400 a month. Workers in bakeries and similar establishments, they normally get paid per week. So payment for ovenmen and bakers, that will increase from $240 to $375 per week. Pastrymen and women from $240 to $350 a week. Wrappers and packers from $170 to $300 a week. And those who are paid by the agricultural workers, for example, they currently work at $6.50 per hour. Their minimum wage will now be $60 a day.
Media workers, early childhood caregivers, and sanitation workers are among the new inclusion on the minimum wage order.
There's a uniqueness about sanitation workers. The research and the work of the committee shows that sanitation workers, we have a shortage of sanitation workers in Grenada. The rate currently is in the region minimum of about $65 a day. And so after doing the relevant research and conducting the consultations with stakeholders, employers and employees alike, the committee recommends a minimum wage of $108 a day for sanitation workers. So that's a substantial increase to this new category. Also, new in the minimum wages will be call center workers.
The law, Senator Joseph says, requires that the minimum wage order be reviewed every 3 years. Government continues to make good on its promise to increase agricultural investment to boost food security and address the many challenges faced by the sector. Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell, during his presentation on day 2 of the budget debate, said a preliminary report has been submitted by a consultant highlighting the short to medium plans for the food security and agriculture sector. As part of plans for the industry, government will, in the new year, engage the private sector to lead an entity that will reimagine the Marketing and National Importing Board. Prime Minister Mitchell said for too long the sector has been ignored with little investment.
We intend this month, and as we get into January, to work with the private sector to create an entity that we believe should be private sector led, with government participation, to begin the process of the reimagined Marketing and National Importing Board. And Mr. Speaker, I say this because I think sometimes we think the government is the economy. The government isn't the economy. The government is part of the economy. And we need to be careful to make sure that the government, in fact, doesn't become too big. Because if it becomes too big, the fiscal challenge is going to become larger. And ultimately, we'll be cutting ourselves off at the knee. So we need, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the private sector is incentivized to get involved in the agriculture, food, agro-processing industry.
Additionally, his constituency stands to benefit from some of these investments. He announced that a private investor has won the bid to revamp and reopen the Windfresh agro-processing company at Lassages.
His bid has been accepted, and that he intends to invest in the agro-processing plant in St. David, so we can start ensuring that all of the fruit, vegetables, and all of the other things that go to waste, we can begin the process of starting to seriously address agro-processing on scale.
This is the Government Week in Review. When we return, we will review the billion-dollar budget presented in Parliament earlier this week.
Your new GREN bill is even easier to read and still has all the valuable information you need to track and manage your usage.
Hey Mom, okay, your friendly tech support is here. So you got the new GREN bill? Let's take a look. The new bill makes it even easier to see your bill total, the due date, and much more. And take a closer look. It actually is a lot easier to understand. Let me show you. You can still see exactly what the charges are for, but in a great new format, it even shows how the cost of generating and delivering the electricity to you is calculated using your actual usage. Anyway, look who says hi, and see you soon.
Your new GREN bill, easier to understand and easier to track your usage.
Welcome back. Earlier this week, the government of Grenada presented a budget of $1,656,356,499, which it says will put the country on a path towards resilience, empowerment, and growth. The fiscal package represents government's strategic commitment to economic growth and overall enhancement and was presented by Finance Minister Honorable Dennis Cornwall under the theme Grenada at 50. Empowering our people, transforming our nation. 4 thematic areas have been identified: human development, robust economic growth and job creation, providing good governance, and enhancing climate resilience, environmental sustainability, and renewable energy. $117.9 million has been allocated to the health sector, which represents an increase of $3.7 million. Education, youth, sports, and culture has been allocated $240.5 million compared with $193.9 million allocated in 2023. This represents an increase of $46.6 million. The Ministry of Agriculture has received $49.2 million, which represents a significant increase from the $39.4 million in 2023. However, that sum does not include provisions for the Climate Smart Agriculture and Enterprise Development Project of $7.8 million, the Grenada Climate Adaptation Project $0.8 million, and the Agriculture Feeder Road Project $7.0 million. This means the total allocation for 2024 is closer to $64.8 million. Infrastructural development has been allocated to $136.1 million, while $80.3 million will be used to bolster housing, social community, and gender initiatives, and $121 million for national security. A significant portion of the 2024 budget allocation will be used to bolster the climate resilience through the enhancement of climate resilience, environmental sustainability, and renewable energy. Recognizing the increasing threats and severity of climate-related events in Grenada, the government aims to fortify its climate sector by supporting infrastructure, greening the transport sector, supporting the geothermal project, and electricity transition. Finance Minister Honorable Dennis Cornwall spoke to the government's electricity transitioning for Grenada.
Mr. Speaker, government is exploring every opportunity to transition the electricity sector towards renewable energy as far as it's practicable, including using solar, geothermal, and wind energy. A major opportunity exists to develop two major solar farms, one at the Maurice Bishop International Airport and the other at Pearls and St. Andrews. Combined, these sites have a potential to generate at least 17 megawatts of solar generated power backed by battery storage. Concessional funding has been identified for this major development and is expected to come on stream next year.
Government has budgeted $3.6 million for the geothermal development project. While this is still in the exploration stage, it is expected to provide long-term sustainable benefits for Grenada.
Work is ongoing with support grant through the Caribbean Development Bank and the Government of New Zealand. Mr. Speaker, we are actively pursuing additional grant funding to cover the initial phase of this project leading up to the resource determination stage. An amount of $3.6 million will be budgeted for this project in 2024.
The government has also outlined a comprehensive strategy to bolster the nation's physical infrastructure and pave the way for sustainable growth and development. The budget places a strong emphasis on leveraging public-private partnerships to propel the nation into a new era. A major highlight was the announcement of a transformative road infrastructure project for the Western Corridor.
We'll continue to focus on building the necessary physical infrastructure, including through leveraging public-private partnership that will support and propel our nation into a new era of sustainable growth and development. In this vein, we are continuing to explore the feasibility for a major road infrastructure project that will transform the economic and social architecture of the Western Corridor from St. George to St. Patrick, reducing the travel time by more than half. That notwithstanding, government will undertake the rehabilitation of the existing Western Main Road, focusing on a reduced scope, specifically addressing resurfacing of the existing road and straightening hairpin corners.
In relation to the transport sector, duties, taxes, and fees on the importation of electric vehicles, as well as charging stations, will be removed. Furthermore, there will be a 25% duties, taxes, and fees on hybrid vehicles. The government has also planned to transition its existing fleet of vehicles to electric or hybrid. Education, Youth, Sports and Culture has received an allocation of $240.5 million compared to the $193.9 million allocated in 2023, an increase of $46.6 million, and the highest allocation to the Education, Youth, Sports and Culture budget in the history of Grenada. Minister for Education, Senator the Honorable David Andrew, is pleased with the allocation, which he says sends a strong message that his government is cognizant of the importance of education, youth, and sports.
This budget continues to reflect the importance that this administration attaches to education. And so the heightened figure shouldn't surprise us because it was clearly announced that education is a priority. And we continue to do there's some significant things happening in education, started in 2023, and the expectation that there is going to be acceleration in several of those areas in 2024. Skills, for instance, we've talked about the importance of skills and repositioning skills in our education system to bridge the gap between what the world of work requires and what the school system is churning out.
We take another break. We will continue our focus on the 2024 budget when we return.
Climate change is real, bringing hotter days and less rain. Less rain means less water, so it is crucial for all of us to conserve water at home. When washing my fruits and vegetables, I use a bowl of water, and later I reuse it to water my plants. This is how I save water at home. What are you waiting for?
Welcome back. Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell says measures implemented in the 2024 budget speak specifically to the needs of the people while continuing to lay a strong foundation for institutional strengthening and transformative changes. The second budget of the NDC administration provides for a total expenditure of more than $1,600,000.
Like healthcare,
yes.
I think we know fixing healthcare is not going to be an immediate fix, it's going to be a long-term process. We have to build out the ecosystem to do so. So while we have medium to long-term goals of new teaching hospital, etc., in the meantime, we still have to fix the many challenges we have with just trying to retain healthcare professionals, for example. And so you've seen we've maintained the allowance to the nurses. We've now introduced an allowance to the doctors. These are small measures, but it signals our intent to treat seriously with the human resource challenges we face. We've talked a lot about education. One way of solving the healthcare issue, as well as making sure that we have sufficient number of persons going into that field from an education perspective. That again is a medium to long-term approach. So there are a number of initiatives that I think we are going to take obviously over the next year and in the medium term to address some of the more complex issues. But at the same time, we recognize that people also need to address some of the immediate needs. So it's an attempt to balance both of them.
Prime Minister Mitchell added that the regularization of government workers, contract workers, and Imanis is another way of ensuring that his administration puts people first. The regularization will take a phased approach. In Phase 1, approximately 300 employees are to be confirmed by the Public Service Commission by December 2023, including officers who are temporary or on probation or on assignment. In Phase 2, approximately 1,754 workers are to be considered for regularization by December of 2024, consisting of workers holding PSC contracts, Government of Grenada contracts, ministry letters, and daily paid instruments. Phase 3 will see approximately 3,326 workers being considered for regularization by December of 2025, consisting of workers holding contracts for service and Imanis.
Unfortunately, in many instances, it's become a trap where persons essentially are paid trainee wages, which is beneath the minimum wage, and wages that you simply cannot survive on. And once you go back, say, 12 or 18-month period, if all that, on such wages, then you're essentially in a poverty cycle. You can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your family. So the first thing for us, I think, is recognizing that we need a medium to long-term fix, but in the meantime, people need to be able to take care of themselves. So that's why we would have increased the minimum from 700 to 1,200. That is why we are beginning to move them onto contracts as the next step. That is why we will pay the NIS, because we recognize that, again, if you are not paying NIS, you can't benefit from any of the social safety net that NIS offers, whether it's sick leave, maternity leave, unemployment benefits, which has now been introduced. So we recognize that in the medium term, in the short term, we have to address those issues as well. We also asking the private sector to do the same, because at the end of the day, we can't exploit our own people. We can't have a situation where people are actually working, and then you're paying them trainee jobs. I mean, beyond the training period. If they can do the job, if they're doing the job well enough, then they deserve to be treated as employees who would have trained in your system and can do the job. So that's part of the thinking behind that. But we also want to stress the questions of the TDEP and the vocational training and our skills. And one of the things we have to appreciate here in Grenada is that there is really no age limit to go into school. Too often we feel that once we go past 16 or 18, that school is finished. The bottom line is we have to learn to train and retrain ourselves and retool ourselves to get the jobs or to create the demand where the supply needs it for the type of skill set that we need. So one of the things we have to do as adults is to recognize that if you're unemployed and you work, for example, in the hotel business all your life and your hotel closed down, but there's an opportunity for you to do work in the construction industry, you can do a 6 months training course and then move into the construction industry. So that is why we need the technical and vocational training institutions to be institutions that are not just targeting young people, but they're targeting unemployed persons who need to change their skill set or improve or increase or broaden their skill set so that they can actually get employment much faster.
The Ministry of Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs has been allocated a sum of $117.9 million in the 2024 budget, an increase of $3.7 million compared to the 2023 allocation. This is a new record in terms of the highest allocation to the health sector in the history of Grenada, according to Minister of Finance, Honorable Dennis Cornwall, during Monday's presentation. We hear more in this report.
$4.2 million of the budget allocated to the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs has been allocated for the extension of the honorarium of $500 per month for nurses for a period of 12 months effective January 2024, and to provide an honorarium of $1,000 per month for doctors for the same period. Minister of Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs, Senator the Honorable Jonathan Lacrette, says this is part of government's efforts to diligently tackle the long-term HR challenges in the sector.
As of this year, we have already sent 3 nurses to Jamaica to start studying in specialist areas. I think one is operating room nursing, the other one is nephrology, if I'm not mistaken, and critical care nursing. So, and every year after that, 3 nurses will go because the program is about 9-10 months. Okay. Yeah. So every year after that, we would send nurses to ensure that they specialize in the areas that they are inclined to. We'll find the resources for them to do so. And we have budgeted for another 3 next year, God's willing, 2024. We believe that it was critically important for us to continue the honorarium simply because their regularization tranche is not in the first set. And as a result, we did not want them to be disadvantaged. And we did promise it was going to be up to December 31st. 2023, but seeing that the regularization is going to take place in phases, we wanted to ensure that they're not disadvantaged salary-wise, etc. And yeah, we've taken that bold step to continue the honorarium and to also add one for our doctors, because I know sometimes they feel a little bit left out. And you do hear the cry, when they say, well, we only focus on the nurses, and the nurses are not the only ones that are working in the clinical environment, but the doctors can't work without the nurses. And that is a fact. But in all fairness, they too work very hard, and they have been clamoring for same for a very long time. And as a result of that, we wanted to ensure that we honor their requests. Sadly, we can't go to 2,000 and 3,000 for them, but I believe that they will greatly appreciate the start that we've made as a health sector.
2024 to 2027 has been designated as the years of health sector modernization, and Senator Lacrette says the ministry intends to incrementally roll out its plans.
Next year, we're going to see some significant improvements in the healthcare sector in various areas, from digitization of our healthcare sector in specific areas to the continued smarting of our medical stations and our health centers. We're really excited about it. My technical as well as my managerial staff is extremely excited about it to roll out some of the projects that we have started and the new ones to start. We have the OECS Health Strengthening Project. We also have the World Bank project that's taking place. And these international organizations that are investing in the development of healthcare in small island developing states, we're really grateful for them and for it, and as a result, we will see the smarting of some of those medical stations under these projects, as well as other areas of healthcare. We have a very strong focus as well on primary healthcare. I believe all our energies will be extended and exerted towards primary healthcare next year, 2025, 2026, and a very short period in 2027.
Other plans of the ministry include strengthening human resource capacity, upgrading healthcare facilities, building the country's new medical and teaching hospital, advancing national health insurance, and promoting mental wellness. Finance Minister Cornwall says the government's promise of transforming the healthcare system is not idle words, even while the administration recognizes the enormity of the challenge of repairing a badly broken health system. Reporting for the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs, I am Blossom Alexis Welsh.
In other news, Grenadians have said their goodbyes to a man who has made a significant contribution to the development of youth and sports in the country. Adrian Spaceman Mitchell was laid to rest on Thursday. Sherry-Ann Noel reports.
I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way.
It was a solemn mood for family, friends and acquaintances who turned out despite the inclement weather to bid farewell to Adrian Spaceman Mitchell, former Minister for Youth, Sports and Community Development at the Holy Family Catholic Church, Riverside, St. Patrick on Thursday. Many paid tribute reflecting on the life and legacy of a man who devoted his life to nation building, with specific emphasis on youth and sports. Tributes came from near and far as the former MP touched lives of many Grenadians at home and in the diaspora. Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, were among those who expressed profound condolences to family and friends of Adrian Mitchell.
His soft-spoken mannerism, his gentleness, and his deep-rooted community spirit are features which stand out to me and to many Grenadians. And as Dr. Mitchell said, he clearly was an example for the better and the best for many of us to follow. And so we owe it to him to ensure that even if it's 1/10 of the community spirit, the support for young people, for sports, for culture, that we can pay no greater tribute to him than by continuing to support our communities, to support our culture, and to support our young people.
Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former teacher of Adrian Mitchell and political leader of the New National Party, under whose administration he served, said Adrian Mitchell was not only his student, but a real friend. Reflecting on his academic ability, Dr. Mitchell said his first encounter with Mr. Mitchell was at the Presentation Brothers College, where he taught chemistry and math.
And I remember the first examination. Those days, colleagues, you remember it was arithmetic, algebra, and geometry, the three pieces. And therefore, that first exam was in geometry. And I proceeded to start correcting the papers. And I came upon this paper that was almost appeared to be a perfect paper. And the handwriting was one of the most beautiful handwriting that I have come across. So the order of the paper, the logic of how the solution of the problems flowed, it shows someone thinking scientifically. So I said, who is this person? And I look and I see, I'm Mitchell. So I say, yes. It must be a Mitchell intrude. It must be. So I proceeded to correct the paper. And friends, similar in chemistry, he was a whiz. But what I decided every time I gave an exam in both chemistry and mathematics, I look for Adrian papers first. So before I waste my time going and solve the problem myself, I look at Adrian paper first, because he usually would have the solution. Now and then he would make a mistake, which I would find. But he was an excellent student.
Adrian Mitchell had a strong influence within the St. Patrick East constituency and was the driving force behind the development of Hard Rock Football Club. Mr. Garvin Charles, member of the Hard Rock Football Club, says despite his health challenges, he remained the CEO of the club for 36 years, from its formation in 1987 until his passing November 12th.
Pioneers are people who do things first. They are people who do things differently. Continuously, and watch it flourish. We definitely lost a football pioneer. The foundation of the Hard Rock Football Club. You pave the way and give opportunity to footballers. Not only in River Sally, you ensure that we had a club to grow with, gain exposure, and compete at our best. Took us from the streets to multiple championship, Premier League, Heineken Cup, and the Wagiti tournament.
President of the Grenada Athletic Association also reflected on his genuine embodiment towards youth development, particularly through sports.
He established a scholarship program which ensured that qualified athletes were financed for the first 2 years of their studies in the USA. He ensured the participation of all athletes achieving the standards for character games. Now, this may seem very simple to you, but there was a time when athletes qualified for the games and could not have gone to the games. Mr. Mitchell ensured that that was a thing of the past.
Mitchell died at the General Hospital on November 12th at age 71.
The 2023 Atlantic Rally for Cruisers Arc Plus International cruising event saw participation from over 400 individuals, 95 yachts from 24 countries, the highest participation thus far. The two-stage rally began on November 5, 2023, taking them from Las Palmas, then sailing through the Atlantic Ocean to reach their final port at Camper and Nicholson's Port Louis Marina, Grenada. Since the signing of a 5-year agreement between the Grenada Tourism Authority and the World Cruising Club, Arc Plus, 2023 has the largest number of participants. Over 400 people participated, including 42 children from 9 months to 16 years, establishing Grenada as a premier destination for sailors and yachting enthusiasts from around the globe. The Nautical Gaining has called for the hosting of a media conference on Wednesday at Port Louis Marina. Managing Director of the World Cruising Club, Paul Tetlow, took the opportunity to commend the local organizing team for their exceptional hospitality. The Grenada Tourism Authority, together with the students from the T.A. Marischal Community College Tourism and Hospitality students and the Camper and Nicholson's Port Louis Marina, all came together for this event.
The welcome has been warm and enthusiastic, and those involved in the events have really given it the best presentation possible of Grenada's yachting destination credentials. There was a total of 457 crew members participating, representing 31 different nationalities. Our oldest participant, which was also the oldest skipper, was 88 years old. And then our youngest participant, who I'm pleased to say is with us this morning, 9-month-old Rue from Pinnacle. In fact, talking about the children participating in Arc Plus and the family boats, there were 41 participants under the age of 16, sailing on 20 yachts. Arc Plus is becoming very popular with the families who are adopting the Arc Plus as their route of choice, and as a consequence our programme in the different ports is adapting to those needs.
The managing director said that they are hoping to promote yachting in Grenada, especially among the younger population.
Now that Arc Plus is becoming a more established and key yachting event on the island of Grenada's calendar, World Cruising Club is seeking to invest in long-term beneficial relationships to promote yachting on the island, particularly around young people's participation in yachting and water sports, and working on projects which promote the sustainability of the marine environment for locals and yachties alike.
Grenada Tourism Authority's Manager of Nautical Development, Mrs. Nicoyan Roberts, said that this year's number signifies a growing relationship between the World Cruising Club and the Grenada Tourism Authority.
This year's impressive participation is an improvement over 43 yachts in 2021 and 66 yachts in 2022. And it is a testimony to Grenada's growing allure as a destination for sailors and enthusiasts from around the globe. We are not merely witnessing an additional and continuing increase from the 66 yachts in 2022, but we're seeing a flourishing partnership between Grenada as a preferred yachting destination and the global sailing community.
A number of businesses and vendors have set up booths to provide services for those docking at Camper Nicholson's. Mrs. Roberts says also notable is the economic benefits that this will provide for Grenada's tourism sector and economy.
Beyond the sheer spectacle of these majestic vessels, the economic impact of hosting the Arc Plus is truly noteworthy. This influx of sailors and spectators brings about an economic boost that resonates across our tri-island state. From bustling tours and excursions that showcase our picturesque landscapes, to a surge in demand for accommodation, culinary services, maritime services, the ripple effect is undeniable.
General Manager of the Camper and Nicholson's Port Louis Marina, Zara Tremlett, also spoke at the media conference.
Each and every one of you that has arrived has been greeted by the students of TAMCC, representing the Grenada Tourism Authority. Again, this highlights the strong collaboration required to make such an event be such a success. I'm sure Nicoyan has lots more info if you ever need. The whole team at Port Louis Marina have worked incredibly hard. You're talking every department, from housekeeping and gardening to the dock staff and the office administrators.
That story brings us to the end of the Week in Review for the week ending December 8, 2023. I am Kristen Mitchell saying thank you for viewing.